Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. We're moving on in our Dunamancy spell mini-series thing here into the third and final part of this series. These spells are specifically crafted for the new subclasses for Wizard, but they are available as a DM to gift as rewards to other spellcasters as laid out in the book. So what we're going to do is go through each of these spells and give our thoughts in detail about how good that we think they are and just kind of give an overview of them. So let's just jump straight into it. We have first the level 1 Magnify Gravity. So the gravity in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point you can see within range increases for a moment. Each creature in the sphere on the turn when you cast a spell must make a con saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 2d8 force damage and its speed is halved until the end of its next turn. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage and suffers no reduction to its speed. Until the start of your next turn, any object that isn't being worn or carried in the sphere requires a successful strength check against your spell save DC to pick up or move. When cast at higher levels, above spell slot of second or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for each spell slot above first. So with this one, interesting. Not a whole lot of damage, 2d8, but it is a 60-foot, it is a 10-foot radius sphere at a range of 60 foot. But 2d8 force damage isn't really a ton. I think you'd mostly cast it more for the speed reduction than anything. But again, con saves, a little risky, I would say. And most times con and dex saves are a little bit more on the risky side in general. Maybe you used a command spell the previous turn or something, or someone else used command spell, and then you make it so they have to make a strength check to pick up whatever they dropped or something. Situational. Yeah. For sure. But definitely very interesting.
Flavor-wise, I think a lot of these gravity spells are going to be hard to beat in terms of how interesting they are and how different and unique they can become flavor-wise for far as what they do. But yeah, I think a lot of these will become more from a crowd control CC kind of a setup more than raw damage output that they give until you get to maybe that big one at the end. But interesting to say the least as far as to how effective it would be.
Right.
I'm going to go with that.
Another thing to keep in mind too with the Graviturgy magic wizard is with their ability that whenever a creature fails a save, you can move them 5 feet as well. So something to keep in mind with all of these spells, or if it's like an area of effect spell, it can move everything that failed to save accordingly. So it makes their utility spells a little bit better than they would be if another class or subclass had access to them. Just keep that in mind as well. Second level spell, we have Movable Object. Touch an object that weighs no more than 10 pounds and cause it to become magically fixed in place. You and the creatures you designate when you cast the spell can move the object normally. You can also set a password that, when spoken within 5 feet of the object, suppresses the spell for 1 minute. If the object is fixed in the air, it can hold up to 4,000 pounds of weight. More weight causes the object to fall. Otherwise, the creature can use an action to make a strength check against your spell save DC. On a success, the creature can move the object up to 10 feet. If you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th or 5th level, the DC to move the object increases by 5, and it can carry up to 8,000 pounds of weight, and the duration increases to 24 hours. If you cast a spell using a spell slot of 6th level or higher, the DC increases by 10, carry up to 20,000 pounds, and effect is permanent until dispelled. It does require gold dust worth 25 gold, which the spell consumes to cast this as well. So, with this could be very interesting, very situational. But the ability to make it permanent is definitely interesting because you can set traps or things like that, and it's 20,000 pounds, right? So you could really set like a big old trap on something. Dropping something that much weight is probably just going to kill most things. Obviously, DM discretion on that, but it doesn't have any innate value. You have to be very creative with the use of this, but again, very thematic in how it works.
My first thought immediately was in chase scene. If you're being chased, usually it's not the case, but if you're being pursued by something, if you can just get a door between you and them and then just lock the door. Like you just shut that door, they're not going to get through that door. They're going to fight with that door, try to kick it open and that's valuable seconds that you can just leave their butt behind. It's the way my brain usually works when reading through spells like this. What's the first use I can think of besides what's just written right there on the page? That's the first thing that comes to my mind is something like that. Of course, obviously, the more fun thing probably would be to set some kind of a ambush trap and just drop something on somebody's head, just cut the spell, just boom, Just drop something on somebody's knocker.
Right.
Would be the most fun way to use it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely very situational utility spell, but it is what it is. And it says you can, designate something to be able to move the object normally. So, maybe use it as like a cart.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? You can be very creative with this one. Then we have Gravity Sinkhole, 4th level spell. 20-foot radius sphere of crushing force forms at a point you can see within range, which is 120 feet, and tugs at the creatures there. Each creature in the sphere must make a con saving throw. On a failed save, creature takes 5d10 force damage and is pulled in a straight line toward the center of the sphere, ending in an unoccupied space as close to the center as possible, even if that space is in the air. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't pulled. Casting the spell at a 5th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d10 for each spell slot above 4th level. So, especially keeping in mind here, you can cast this in the air, and it pulls things up. So definitely very interesting. 20-foot radius. It pulls them, it says in a straight line toward the center of the sphere, ending in an occupied space as close to the sphere as possible. So you're basically moving things 20-foot radius. If you like clip someone's body and you have it cast it in the air, you pull them up, and then it just is. I guess they would just drop immediately, right? Because it just ends after a turn, right? Duration instantaneous, so it just pulls them up, and then they would fall, right? But as a Graviturgy magic wizard, you can increase fall damage.
Correct.
So there is that, and you can also, when they pull up to that middle spot, you can also push them an extra 5 feet up before they fall, and then add the fall damage. So definitely very thematic. I think it's a pretty cool spell. How useful it is, I don't know. But as Alex would point out, I'm sure he probably would, is cast this over a cliff, and anything over is going to be sucked in, and then they just fall.
That's correct. Or the other thing I thought about is pair yourself with a druid. I think of the druid in our play group who's all about his battlefield manipulation. You put them like a spike growth on the or a grease trap and pull everything back into it.
Right.
So that way
they just get out of it.
And they just get out of it and back to the middle you go. So they're taking that damage to get back out of there again, or just the grease or whatever to slow them so they can't get back out of that thing fast enough. Because they had to go through it twice. Yeah.
Right.
Just stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
My whole goal when I play Dungeons and Dragons, with my DM, of course, being the other part of the screen here, is to make things as interesting as possible for you.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, definitely very good. All of these spells, I feel like, are with moving things, utility, like, can be very situational, but definitely very good, especially if you have another caster that has some kind of, like Alex was saying, some kind of way to cause difficult terrain or other difficulties in movement or damaging effects that when they start their turn in the effect, they take damage. So if you kind of combo with another caster, you can do some pretty interesting things for sure.
Right.
Then we have Gravity Fissure, which you manifest a ravine of gravitational energy in a line originating from you that is 100 feet long and 5 feet wide. Each creature in that line must make a con saving throw, taking 8d8 force damage, or half as much damage on success. Each creature within 10 feet of the line, but not in it, must succeed a con saving throw or take 8d8 force damage and be pulled toward the line until the creature is in its area. Cast a spell using a spell slot of 7th level or higher. The damage increases by 1d8 for each slot above 6. So definitely another situational thing here, but say you have a druid and they cast Wall of Fire, and they just got...
the example we used off the
just take it. They just pass through it and they suffer through it, and then you immediately pull them back through it again. And you got to run through it again. So there's definitely wombo combos here again. You can cast this in the air, and it's 10 feet. It's a 100-foot line, 5 feet wide. I kind of imagine it as like a beam, but it pulls everything within 10 feet of that 5 foot. So it's actually, if you think about it, it's like 25 feet wide.
Very, very important thing.
Because it's 5 foot, but then it's 10 feet on any side of it. Mm-hmm. So you're pulling things in.
Yeah, 100 by 20 feet's a lot bigger area to cover than 100 by 5.
Yeah, right. So definitely very interesting and cool, because you don't have a whole lot of like laser beam type spells. I mean, there are lines, but they're usually 5 foot wide, most of them, or maybe 10. So this is actually pretty interesting. Again,
and by far the simplest of all the Graviturgy spells too.
Right, yeah.
And
again, you can always aim it off the ground and pull them up 10 feet, and then they fall or whatever. So there's different things you can do. So there's that. Definitely very interesting. Thematic for sure. Level 8. Darkstar. So things start getting a little bit crazy here. The spell creates a sphere centered on the point you choose within range, which is 150 feet. Sphere can have radius up to 40 feet. The area within the sphere is filled with magical darkness and crushing gravitational force. For the duration, the spell's area is difficult terrain. So 40-foot radius, difficult terrain. Creature with dark vision can't see through the magical darkness, and non-magical light can't illuminate it. No sound can be created within or pass through the area. Any creature or object entirely inside the sphere is immune to thunder damage, and creatures are deafened while entirely inside it. Casting a spell that includes a verbal component is impossible there. Any creature that enters the spell's area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there must make a con save, taking 8d10 force damage on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful one. Creature reduced to 0 hit points by this damage is disintegrated. Disintegrated creature and everything it is wearing and carrying its magic items are reduced to a pile of fine gray dust. There is no gold component to cast this spell.
Nope.
So, 40-foot radius sphere.
Big.
Difficult terrain.
Big.
They can't cast verbal spells. And they are deafened. So, good luck getting out. What can move... If you cast this on the center of a creature, it's difficult terrain. It's 40 feet in every... It's a radius, 40-foot radius around them of difficult terrain. They're going to be in this for a little while. At least a couple turns.
And most importantly, you cannot cast a spell magic to get out of it because it requires verbal components.
Right.
So you can't cancel the spell that way.
Yeah. It's definitely very interesting. Very cool. It's a huge area of disintegration.
Yeah.
A 40-foot radius sphere of disintegrate. Yeah. Yikes. It is only 8d10 force damage, which is a solid amount, but it is an 8th level spell. And it is concentration, though. But so every turn they're going to be taking it. All your party members are like casters that have area effects. They're just kind of throwing all this crap into this.
Yeah.
As well. It's just like a big giant death ball.
Yep, pretty much.
So. And of course they're disintegrated, which is always fun.
Yes. Ashes.
Then lastly, we have their 9th level spell. Ravenous Void. You create a 20-foot radius sphere of destructive gravitational force centered on a point you can see within range, which is 1,000 feet. For the spell's duration, the sphere and any space within 100 feet of it are difficult terrain. The non-magical objects fully inside the sphere are destroyed if they aren't being worn or carried. So you destroy everything in a 100-foot. It's a
120 foot radius.
20-foot radius sphere, and then it has a 100-foot space around it. It's difficult terrain, and non-magical objects fully inside the sphere are destroyed. And the sphere appears. And at the start of each of your turns, until the spell ends, unsecured objects within 100 feet of the sphere are pulled toward the sphere's center, ending in an occupied space as close to the center as possible. So you're pulling stuff 120 feet because this is the center of the sphere. The center of the sphere is 20-foot radius.
Yeah.
And it's 100 foot around it, so it's this huge area, and it's pulling it to this 120 feet in difficult terrain as well every turn.
Yeah.
Creature that starts this turn within 100 feet of the sphere must succeed a strength saving throw or be pulled straight toward the sphere's center, ending in occupied space as close to the center as possible. Creature that enters the sphere for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there takes 5d10 force damage and is restrained until it is no longer in the sphere. If the sphere is in the air, the restrained creature hovers inside the sphere. Creature can use its action to make a strength check against your spell save DC, ending this restrained condition on itself or another creature in the sphere that it can reach. Creature reduced to 0 hit points by this spell is annihilated, along with any non-magical items it is wearing or carrying. Also, it does not use any gold components.
Bingo!
So it's definitely not a huge damaging spell, but it is like the biggest area of effect pain in the butt you could ever deal with.
Yeah,
just because it is a huge radius to pull stuff in.
Most maps you'll play on, like if your dungeon master uses digital maps, if we use Roll20 stuff, just because most of our group is not physically located here, or if other maps online, or if you even play in person, most of your maps aren't that big. Just to give you an idea of how big that area really is. Like that, it's a gargantuanly just combat destroying spell if you want it to be.
Right.
I mean, because yes, 5d10 force damage seems like a lot of underwhelming damage, but that you're literally making them use their entire turn just to do a check, just to try to get out of it.
And then if they fail on the next turn, they're sucked
they're
back
gonna get pulled right back to the middle and take that damage again. And they can be targeted by long range stuff.
And they are restrained, so their speed is 0. So they have to try to use an action or something to break it, or a strength check to try to break it. Use its action to make a strength check to break it.
Yes.
And then they can't dash because they just used their action
to
make the check. So they're going to be in trouble.
And it's difficult terrain.
Yeah, you cannot get out of it without using magic. But there's not a whole lot of magic that's going to get you, that far out.
About 3 or 4 spells.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that's going to get you out of there. And
Misty Step ain't getting out of there.
Yeah, and they are restrained if they fail, so that attack rolls have advantage. Their attacks have disadvantage. Creatures have disadvantage on dex saves. So your team can just start laying down the fire.
Yep.
And
it's the ultimate crowd control support spell of just you want to make whatever group of enemies you're fighting this time absolutely useless for multiple rounds of combat. This is your winner right here.
Yeah.
And I think overall, if you went list to list, the Chronurgy spells may be more maybe I'm not to say more interesting, but more viable in more wider settings. But a lot of them take more expensive components to complete.
Right.
Neither of the big sticks in this subclass take any measurable amounts of components. There's no reason you couldn't cast each one of these every day without fail.
Right.
In this class.
You're not really concerned about it. You just always have the option. But obviously circumstances are going to be warranted why you would use this 9th level spell slot versus a different level 9th level spell slot. But definitely very impactful when it does work, depending on what kind of foe if you're fighting casters, maybe not the best 9th level spell to use. But if you're using something that is just a non-caster, they're pretty much going to be stuck in this the entire time. And they have disadvantage on other attacks against you, against your con save. Or you just hide behind a rock or something and they can't hit you anyway. So, going to be very interesting on this side. Yep. But that'll wrap it up for this one, guys. Those are the new Dunamancy spells in the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. Definitely very thematic, very cool. Definitely something that, as a DM, you should consider maybe working some of these into a campaign for your players, maybe rewarding them. Some very interesting spells that can really make your players feel cool, I think. A lot of these are very cool spells. Maybe not the most effective, per se, but definitely very, very interesting. So that'll wrap it up, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so whenever new videos come out. Let us know in the comments down below any stories you have from your campaigns. If you've been using any of these Dunamancy spells yet, or been playing in Wildemount, or used any of the stuff from the new Explorer's Guide to Wildemount book, the new subclasses or anything, I always love to hear your stories about your campaigns. Let us know down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.